I haven't done a video in a little while. I've kind of had some things in life come up and I've been feeling not so motivated, especially now with wintertime. Wintertime is something I kind of struggle with when it comes to being creative in photography, but that's kind of aside the point. But today I kind of want to just share some ideas that I have about developing an aesthetic and developing a voice in your art, your artistic expression, whether that is photography or something else. So this is one of those videos where you can kind of just put the phone down and, you don't have to watch, you can just listen unless you want to, take a look at my beautiful, handsome face for several minutes. I am having quite a good hair day, so, I'm here for that if you want it. But for the most part, this is going to be fairly straightforward and I'm just going to kind of talk at the camera. I think developing a voice is one of the most challenging things people come across when they're doing something like photography. And it's something that gets talked about a lot. There are, guides out there, there are a lot of ideas out there. And I think it's one of those things that people often struggle with. It's something that I personally struggle with when it comes to my photography. And I think one of the most important things to kind of get in your head when you are thinking about your artistic voice is that finding your voice and crafting and fine-tuning your voice and just artistic expression in general is a lifelong journey. It's something that doesn't necessarily have a final destination. It is something that you work on all of the time throughout your whole life, and you really only ever just get better at and you refine. And even when you think you have your voice, you're still even refining that more and more and more. And then your tastes and your experience change, and they give you a new perspective and a new point of view. And then even then you're finding yourself changing your voice. So I think it's really important to notice and understand that this idea of what you have to say and how you engage with art is going to evolve a lot over time. I think that's kind of the best starting point when it comes to talking about creating your own voice. So when it comes to the things that I like to do and the ways that I like to engage with art, when it comes to kind of having a personal voice, I find that I still don't have that with photography. I find that photography is something that I'm just not quite there with, and it's something that I'm still working on, and that I don't really have a really good set of ideas that I can kind of present to you today in terms of my own expression in photography, and that I can say this is my photographic voice. But I do think I have that when it comes to fashion. I've been doing fashion and engaging with clothing and fashion a little bit more and a little bit longer, and it's something that I think I've refined enough to a point where I can sit here and say, I think that this is my voice when it comes to clothing and fashion. And I view fashion as an art form. I view it as a way of expressing myself, and I think that is kind of the most important thing that we can use when we're defining if something is art or not. Is it a way that you can, be expressive and express yourself? And I think one of the big reasons why I have found my voice more so in fashion than I have with photography is because I engage with fashion so much more. I mean, I have to wear clothes every day, right? It's not like I take my camera out every day as much as I would love to. I frankly just don't have the time, but I put on clothes every single day. And I also find that it's a little bit easier to engage with fashion content and fashion in my environment because, again, everyone is wearing clothes all of the time. So when I'm out and about and I'm seeing people dressing in different ways, or I'm looking on social media, I'm looking on the internet, I'm watching videos, whatever it is, I feel like I can observe and digest fashion so much more throughout my regular day-to-day experiences. And that may have to do with the fact that I probably get advertised to so much, so I'm seeing a lot of clothes through that manner. And whether that's kind of good or bad, I don't know, but I think that's just kind of the reality of it. And I have to admit, I'm kind of bad at engaging with other people's work when it comes to photographs. I really blame social media and Instagram for that. I know sometimes we can all just kind of roll our eyes at the whole, phone bad thing, but I think it's true. I think the way that I engage with everything has kind of tuned my brain to want exactly what social media wants me to want, and is to kind of look at things and move on from them quickly. And that's something I definitely struggle with, and it's something I specifically struggle with when it comes to engaging other people's photography. I also think I haven't seen enough truly magnificent work. I think I haven't spent enough time with work that I consider to be moving to me. I think the best solution to that is engaging with work outside of social media, so buying books and seeing work physically, seeing it in a museum. I've spoken about museums that I've been to before, and seeing truly beautiful, impactful work presented in a gallery, in a museum, or in a really nice book is totally, totally different, and I think I just need to do that more. So when I talk about my voice in fashion, I'm talking about the thing that I visualize and embody with my artistic expression through clothes. So what is the idea that I have in my head, and how do I then express that through what I'm wearing? And I really like basing your vision, your voice off of an ideal. I think using terms like a vibe is a little too ambiguous, and I think using things like very specific aesthetics is much, much too literal. So I think an ideal is a nice middle ground between those two things that kind of helps you craft this voice. And when it comes to fashion, fashion is such an aspirational thing. So I think it really goes hand in hand with that idea of I dress to an ideal, I dress to an ideal self. My wardrobe, the way that I express myself through clothes, is me trying to emulate my ideal of me. And to me, and this is going to sound kind of very simple and almost a little lame to some people, but to me, my ideal self is picturing myself looking cool and sitting at a cafe with a film camera, just drinking a cup of coffee. Is that like a really hipster thing to say? Absolutely. Is it kind of lame? You know, maybe not exactly what you had in mind. Yeah, probably. But to me, that idea, it's such a moment of calm for me. It's one of those like life's little pleasures that I wish I could do every single day. It seems mundane, but it's a time when I'm at peace, and it's a time when I get to relax and know that I'm getting to do all of the things that I love to do, and in their most simple form. Think about how you, on a typical day, get your coffee. You probably brew it really quickly at home before you go to work, or you're stopping at a place like a gas station, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, what have you, to grab a large cup to fuel you up, you know, before your hectic workday. And that's something that I think about, and I think, man, I wish I could take 20 to 30 minutes to just go to a cafe and sit down and just be peaceful and quiet, you know, every single day. So to me, that's an ideal that I wish I could do every day. You know, an ideal, your ideal self, an ideal about you, it doesn't have to be this gratuitous, extravagant thing. It may be for you, but for me, it's not. So I have this ideal, and then the aesthetic manner in which I choose to get to that ideal is through my personal spin on Ivy styling. From a practical standpoint, I think Ivy works really nicely for me and for what I want to do, because it sits in this nice middle ground of constantly being kind of elevated, casual, relaxed, and dressed up, but also dressed down all at the same time. I like the idea that historically Ivy is a rejection of an older generation that wore stuffy business suits. And I like that the more fun and colorful and individualistic and exciting that Ivy gets, the more that people gatekeep Ivy, absolutely hate it. I think Ivy should be for everyone, and I love the idea of kind of reviving this style that may be seen as kind of stuffy, but showing people how relaxed and cool and comfortable and fun it could be. A big part about building this voice was being introspective and looking at things and working backwards from them. Often I would see something and I would look at it, and I would pick it apart, and I would look for, you know, the small details, the little things that I could take from it and put into my wardrobe, the things that I didn't like. And often I realized it wasn't the whole, it was just small pieces of something that worked for me. And it was just a matter of observing, engaging with these things, being introspective, trying them, learning what I like, learning what I don't like, experimenting, refining, and so on and so forth. And I have to admit, like, these aren't really my own original ideas either. These are things that I have heard other people talk about, and I kind of took and made my own and, you know, used their influence. I fully understand that everything is derivative. We really don't have much original thought anymore, and that's okay. You know, I try to always offer my own personal perspective, but I'll throw some links down in the description. Two things really stand out in my mind into how I kind of crafted this video. The Style and Direction podcast, my boys Ethan and Spencer, they do a lot of cool stuff about kind of classic menswear, and they've had some episodes on point of view, and I think that's really important. And Bliss Foster as well, amazing fashion YouTuber. He does a lot of runway, high fashion sort of stuff and analysis. He's excellent, does some really cool deep dives. And he had a really great video about developing your aesthetic as well. And those are the kind of the two things that I used as the points for making this. And they're really great, especially if you're into fashion. So, okay, I've talked a lot about clothes, and my ideas about clothes is how does this apply to photography? Well, I think you can take kind of the three key major points and apply them to any art form. You have an ideal for your work. You have a manner in which you are going to represent that ideal. And then you observe and engage with other work, and you learn to pick and refine from those things. And again, it's all about understanding that this is a journey. It is a lifelong process. It's not a thing that happens overnight. It's a thing that you have to work at and allow yourself to change. So when it comes to an ideal for your work, do you want to tell stories? Do you want to be in nature? Do you want to show emotion? I emphasize be in nature because landscape photography is just as much of an artistic expression as reportage photography. There is an art form to the timing of landscape photography. It is very fine. A lot of amazing landscape photographers will wait months and months and months for the exact correct day to get the photograph that they're looking for. And to some people, that is an ideal for their work. Their ideal is being in nature and nailing that exact timing to get that photograph. And then you have the manner in which you present that. Do you do portraits? Do you do reportage photography? Do you shoot in color versus black and white? Do you use specific compositional techniques and framing techniques to get the end result that you're looking for? Obviously, lighting is extremely important. Focal length is something that definitely should also be considered. I know this isn't really a gear-focused video, but when it comes to creating a look, the film, sensor, color grading, whatever, and lens really do play a big part of it. And the third portion of it is observe and engage. You can, look at some of the classical greats or some more contemporary artists, looking at books, museums, what have you, and engaging with those things, sitting and experiencing those things and dissecting what about them makes them so wonderful. I know film photography YouTube likes to bring up Edward Hopper all the time, and I think he's a great classical example because every Edward Hopper painting you look at has very unique to his styling lighting. The way he splits paintings in half with the way that he lights his paintings. I think that's such a great example, and being able to recognize that and notice that and say, oh, that's something that I can look for when I'm out taking photographs. Personally, I have had the Storm on the Sea of Galilee painting by Rembrandt on my mind the past few weeks. I think it's a incredibly dynamic painting. The way that it's lit and the colors, just the way that everything comes together with the central subject, it's dynamic. It's fantastic. I look at it and I wish that I could take photographs with this beautiful, powerful lighting that Rembrandt used in this painting. And I think that's one of the things that, I'm going to continue to think about when I'm going forward and putting myself in this situation to take advantage of more dynamic lighting. And myself included, I'm going to have to just continue to refine that voice, that photographic voice, that artistic voice by doing these things over and over and over again, by engaging and learning and changing and trying and experimenting, and eventually I'll get to a point where I can say, hey, I think I have a photographic voice, but I understand and I know that I'm not there yet. Maybe you feel the same way, but maybe you don't. Maybe you feel that you have figured out your photographic voice. And I want to let you know that it's okay to change, to pivot, to maybe think that you had a photographic voice and realize that you weren't quite there yet, or that you've been doing something in your photography that you're not quite satisfied with, and that it's okay to try things and change and experiment. I personally think it's so much fun to do things like try new film stocks and try new ways of editing and use a bunch of different cameras when I'm doing film photography. I think that's so much a part of the enjoyment. And I fully understand that maybe that's not the most ideal and optimized way to get to my photographic voice, that it would probably be better if I just used one camera, one lens, and one film stock, but I'm allowing myself to enjoy the journey, and I hope that you do as well. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative or helpful in some way, shape, or form. And if you liked it, throw me a like, comment, sub, all that wonderful stuff. So yeah, thanks again. I'll see you next time.